All right, a couple people are coming in from the waiting room. All right, I've started recording. And if you're just joined the meeting, we are just getting started here with the Reston Arts Center feasibility wrap-up meeting. And hopefully you all can see the screen. Lila, did you want to say a few words to kick us off here?
Sure. So we just want to say thank you to everybody who's participated up to this point and participating tonight. Engagement is not exclusive to these meetings. Anyone who has thoughts they want to share with us is welcome to do so at any time. I just want to stress once more that we are at the beginning of a process that will take many more weeks to firm up and deliver any conclusive outcomes. So we are very appreciative of everybody's input and feedback, and we are grateful to our consultant team from GMP, and of course to our county partners in this endeavor, the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services, their Capital Facility Planning Group. And I will now let you take it away, Amy. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Lila. Yes, everyone, hi. Thank you again for joining us tonight on our fifth and last engagement meeting of this feasibility phase for the Reston Arts Center. We appreciate everyone coming in, everyone who's muted upon entry, just to keep background noise down, and anybody who, of course, is in the car or making dinner or eating dinner, just stay muted. We will have plenty of time to solicit some discussion, and we'll let you know when you can unmute for that. But just in case anybody hasn't been overwhelmed with Zoom over the past 2 years, and if this is new to you, here's a little snippet of the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. There's a mute button on the left where you can click to unmute and mute yourself. There's also the camera button or the video button to put your video on or off. Feel free to turn it on at any moment. We love seeing your face, but if you also do not want to have your camera on, that's perfectly fine. You can see that there's a chat button. It looks like a word cloud, like from a comic. That is where you can enter a comment in the chat box, and we will be monitoring the chat. And this meeting is recorded, but we will cut and paste and save that chat as well as part of record of the meeting. So we would love to just capture any of your input, however you would like to share it. The meeting is being recorded, so you'll see notification of that. And the point of that is that with all of these public meetings, we've wanted to make sure that they're posted on the fairfaxcounty.gov website. And if friends or coworkers that would like to be involved and give their input or see what's being discussed but can't be here, please ask them to go to the website and watch the recording. And you can always use the email that's on the website to enter some input in writing. You can raise and lower your hands in the reactions bar, or the little button for reactions. Here's a snapshot of what it looks like on mine. You can raise your hand, you can lower your hand. There's also a different emoji you can use if we're saying something that really delights you. Feel free, give us a heart. And then at any time, if you need to leave the meeting, you can hit the red leave button. So hopefully everyone is familiar with that. And again, we just wanted to say thank you to our partners in this process. The Reston Community Center has been facilitating this communication with the community and hosting these sessions for us. Fairfax County and the Department of Public Works and Environmental Sciences has been really integral in helping discuss the proffer, negotiate that, and they're bringing all their expertise of technical and capital facilities projects along with us. And as I mentioned, I'm Amy Upton. I'm with Grimm & Parker Architects, and I'm joined tonight by Sue Haynes and Julia Pryor. Feel free to wave. We're a local design architecture firm in the area, and we are in charge of really listening and gathering all this input that we're hearing from everyone, translating that into some space studies and programming, that will result in a cost estimate. And the feedback that we get from everyone here is really crucial to helping inform that this facility could meet the best needs of the community. So we really appreciate everyone. The faces and names that we've seen from previous meetings. It's great to see you again. And for anyone that's here for the first time, welcome. We can't wait to hear your input. So here's a little brief agenda of what we're going to do. We have some just stage setting project overview of where we are. Then we're going to share back what we've heard from this process. We're leaving some time for discussion at the end. We are sort of showing 15 minutes in the agenda, but we might go a little faster and we'll have more time to talk. And then we'll talk about just wrapping it up and what the next steps are in this process. Again, this is the last of the 5 engagement meetings as part of this feasibility phase. And tonight we're pretty excited to report back to you what we've heard from you. We've heard a lot about preferences and priorities. There's been a lot of questions and concerns and hopes shared. And again, all of this is going to be used to inform space allocation and cost estimating so that Fairfax County can discuss the proffer opportunity. We just want to, again, make sure that we don't get too far ahead of ourselves tonight, because we want to use this information to do that cost estimating process, because without that, Fairfax County won't be able to respond to the proffer opportunity without that cost estimating information. So no design is happening in this phase unless or until that proffer is accepted. And again, we're still in the first sort of phase of this feasibility opportunity of community outreach, and that we kicked it off on Valentine's Day in February, and tonight is our last night of community meetings. After this, we will be just working on translating what we've heard from all of you into some ideas of programming and looking at how those parts, big pieces of the puzzle, can fit on the site in some really big picture design concepts. And all of that is so that we can right size the elements in order to do a cost estimate. There'll be some proffer determinations later this summer in June and July, and at that time it'll be determined when and how community re-engagement will happen. And then any building design or construction really is going to be as a result of this feasibility study. So that's to be determined. That's not on the calendar yet. Again, I've mentioned the word proffer a lot. The proffer would be an agreement between Boston Properties and Fairfax County in the next phase of the Reston Town Center development. And we're looking at Block J. And you can see on the screen, there's an aerial site plan with the orange block in the corner, in the lower right corner. That's Block J. That is the proposed site for the potential Reston Arts Center. The proffer would provide for an approximately 60,000 gross square foot facility maximum to house a stage suitable for large scale music and dance performances, as well as other related arts amenities. Oops, sorry. The county and Reston Community Center will seek to maximize the ability of this project to meet the goals of One Fairfax and the countywide strategic plan. If undertaken, this project will result in a facility that serves everyone equitably and with high quality. The county and RCC wants to maximize the usefulness and activation of all capital projects undertaken on behalf of the public. So just bottom line, the goal of everyone is to be good stewards of public funds and serving the entire community equitably and with high quality. The RCC will not raise a small District 5 tax rate to accomplish this project, and the county will seek partners for funding of the capital project. But in regards to funding, that's pretty much all we know right now. Again, I mentioned the email that can be used for any feedback or questions outside of these meetings, and that's rcccontact@fairfaxcounty.gov. And maybe Sue or Julie, if you guys could just type that into the chat, that would be great. And then you can have a record of that there. It's just rcccontact@fairfaxcounty.gov. So just to show you the site again, we're talking about Block J, and it's really along Sunset Hills Road, which is just north of the metro station and just south of the Reston Town Center. It's part of the proposed development of the new Reston Center connection, and it's really a fantastic site for a lot of different public transportation connections. We have the metro, there's bus transit, there's the bridges that cross over the WNOD trail, bike parking, other parking for cars. All that is being accommodated in this master plan development, and it's very pedestrian friendly site. Perhaps you've already walked around there. The lower left hand corner hotel and office building are already under construction, blocks A and B. Here's just an overlay from the Boston Properties development concept, and it shows the site overlaid on that aerial. You can see the Block J in the lower right-hand corner outlined in red, and directly adjacent to that across the street is a proposed outdoor space with a lot of greenery and leisure. It could be a great connection for outdoor activities to spill out from this. In talking about the different types of uses that are being planned for this whole development, there's a lot. You can see there's a great mix of office and retail, residential, hotel, and even a lot of restaurants and different types of food options are being planned in this, along with some outdoor public spaces for seating and recreation. Public art is potential, and a variety of just tree-lined streets. So it looks like a really good mix of activities. And again, here's just a blow up, just not too much extra to add here, but it is a very walkable site and walkable scale. And you can see that there's 3 streets that surround Block J in addition to Sunset Hills. And so there's really no back to the building. It's a lot of great opportunities for engagement along the street, for visibility of the activities that are going on inside day and night, and for transparency. So we've heard from a lot from everyone in these previous meetings, and also there's been a lot of gathering of information over the years as part of the Outreach of the Master Arts Plan Task Force. And that's resulted in some of these bottom line bullet points here of issues that we know would result in getting the best outcome of this proffer. So as I've mentioned this already, but as part of this process, we really want to identify the primary component spaces and to put these primary components together in the most space efficient way without compromising quality or experience. And we also understand that we need to consider all of the different pieces of accessory and support spaces in facilities that are already in operation in Reston and the greater Fairfax County area, and also what is coming in regards to facilities that are under construction or even being planned that are down the road. So the county is interested in a facility that performs the greatest service at the highest levels of quality, and funding in that terms of which entities and for what reasons and what percentages, that's going to be a critical consideration in determining what can be accomplished. But for right now, we're really trying to make sure that we understand the component parts that are needed and the activities and events that need to happen. So we also heard, of course, every step of the way, whether we were talking about performing arts or visual arts, that we shouldn't compromise technical capabilities, and that cost, distance, and travel time are barriers to participation for many people with respect for the arts. Also, we want to make sure that we accommodate people regardless of physical or cognitive challenges, and that artists and audiences also need to feel safe, welcome, and supported. We have been looking at a lot of the input leading up to this effort, and there is a great website with an interactive map gallery that shows a lot of the different performing and visual arts facilities in and around Reston. And from this, we've gathered that there's a lot of options for small, large, and flexible spaces for rental, but they're there needs to be more. We do know that what's missing is a space that's designed for performance use with professional technical support and stage capacity and related support spaces at the mid-size seating capacity. So we're really looking at the around 500 to 700 seat range. Some of that is really determined on the site of the size there. We do know that the area can support medium capacity performance venue with a large footprint stage, and there's a lot of types of performances that can go on, but music, dance, theater, orchestra, all of that is definitely supported. Also, what's missing are small intimate venues that are designed for spoken word, comedy, jazz, other small groups outside of restaurant and bar venues. And we heard in every meeting, and we totally understand that artists and art groups find it hard to rent quality rehearsal and studio spaces. And that was also shared last week with talking with Fairfax County Public Schools and other smaller nonprofit areas. In regards to the visual arts, it's a lot of the same needs and wants, but also what has risen to the top has been a discussion for needing a dedicated and flexible gallery space that is professionally equipped and staffed, and also suitable for all types of visual arts offering. We did hear a lot about needing just a recording studio, film and digital media spaces, making sure that this facility is near home communities, and ideally, has a very affordable rental rates with adequate technical support, affordable storage, and artist studios. We took a lot of notes at the very beginning, just talking big picture about what would make this project a success to you, or what kinds of spaces or activities you would like to see in a new arts center. Also talked about diversity, accessibility, human scaled design, and what other important considerations we need to keep in mind as we work through this feasibility study. Each step of the way, we had a lot of polls, and we talked about focusing on performing arts in particular, and talking about programs or types of performances that you would like to see, what types of support, instructional and practice spaces are needed. We heard a lot about needing rehearsal space, practice and instructional space, dance studio, green room. And then also we talked about back of house spaces. And of course, dressing rooms are incredibly important. Loading, storage. Storage, we know that has been discussed in every meeting that we've had. So in talking about performing arts first, we'll get to visual arts and other shared spaces next. But just looking with the filter on performing arts, again, we want to make sure that we can accommodate a variety of performances and a variety of different sizes, but we want to also make sure that the acoustic space is really excellent, that we have acoustic flexibility, but not loss of quality. And that is a very important needle to thread there. Making sure, of course, that we have enough plan in there for technical support, IT, AV, and lighting. Proper humidity control is essential. Making sure that rehearsal space can happen, that instruction can happen here. And also, it's with coming out of the pandemic and having this new normal, one thing that has come out of this that is not going to go away is having the capability to really broadcast, record, and live stream performances simultaneously. And then, of course, having support spaces as concessions and hospitality is important. So we're really just focusing around a proscenium style theater that's approximately 500 seats, but having a balcony, we have the need on this site to really build up. And we're not sure yet how many floors we would need to add on there to get the spaces that we need on the site. But having a balcony would allow us to make the theater feel more intimate if it's not filled, but also give us that capacity and flexibility to have that larger audience. And then the stage was discussed in a lot of detail, and making sure that we have a fly system and that the stage can accommodate about 80 to 100 performers simultaneously, and as well rotate in and out additional performers, especially when there's large large multi-age range performances like the Nutcracker. So either having the wings on there or adjacent space, depending on how the floor plan works out, and then accommodating singers on risers in great numbers and having a sprung floor for dance. There's also the need for an orchestra pit and thrust, proscenium width of about 40 to 45 feet, a full cyclorama or cyc, and having an orchestra shell that is movable but could be stored on site to really provide the necessary acoustical capabilities. Then, as well as that, having a dance or rehearsal space that would have mirrors, ample ceiling height, sprung floor, and then supporting that with a lobby and box office and concessions. Some of the support spaces, I won't read them all, but we talked about having wardrobe and scenery repair shop, having dressing rooms, both private rooms for stars or focused people or highlighted acts, but then having dressing rooms that are flexible, that could double duty with rehearsal space and accommodate larger groups of people. And to do that, we would need to make sure that it's flexible and that it would have a mirror and counter for makeup, curtains for privacy, restroom access, but also, if being used as a rehearsal space, it can meet the needs for that as well. Having a grand piano and piano storage is critical. Having the necessary production office and tech space, control booth, storage, restrooms, all of that would be a given. Circulation would be a given. Production office, catering kitchen has been discussed. Having a lounge space or vending for performers. We have talked a little bit about outdoor space, and we know that it's desired, but there's concern about sound since you are surrounded by streets and the highway there, the toll road. But if there's a way to get some performance space outside or art outside, that was generally supported and agreed upon. And it was also discussed having sensory friendly spaces and streaming capability. We did hear a lot in every meeting about desiring larger number of seats, having anywhere from 7 to 1,000 seat theaters, but the site is limited, and in looking at the market research, it just hasn't been supported of having a larger theater of that size. We just may need to consider that this is a site where multiple performances at affordable rental rates will have to accommodate more audience members. We did hear, especially last week, about Fairfax County Public Schools talked about needing additional storage space for costumes and props and tech studios and classrooms, and teacher professional development spaces. These things may not be feasible at this location. Land is at a premium here, and it's very costly to just add more storage. We do need to have enough storage for the facility itself, though, and for the performances that are happening at that time, but not long-term storage. But there may be spaces, we're talking about art classrooms and other smaller spaces that could be used with a great partnership with the school system. So that's definitely doable. And there was talk about having like a black box or dedicated theater for smaller performances. And there's rehearsal space that we're considering for this facility that could be used for that. But there's other facilities out there that are being designed right now with a black box. It may not happen at this location. And we also talked about individual practice rooms for voice or instrument. And there's just a real question right now about how to allocate those equitably. There's additional management that would need to happen for those types of spaces. And so that's sort of lower on the priority list when we're looking at the space programming for this facility. Okay, moving on to visual arts. And again, we're going to have a discussion point where we can hear back from everyone or answer any questions. But in regards to visual arts, we again talked sort of about events and activities, primary art spaces and support spaces, but with a focus on visual arts. And there was a lot of great support for 2D and 3D arts, for different types of digital media and film and digital art, for having immersive and conceptual space and exhibits. Exhibit was talked about a lot. A lot of dedicated gallery space is necessary. And that came up again when we talked about primary visual art spaces. So galleries, classrooms, immersive conceptual spaces, and studio spaces really were the higher voted for spaces. And for rental activities and spaces, we talked about having social events, studio rental, co-working, catering kitchen, all of that in here. And in talking about visual arts, there was also talked about public art and just overwhelming support for public art inside, outside, everywhere. Ideally, ideally it would be iconic. It could be a feature integrated into the design of the facility, or all of the above. And for visual arts, yep.
Quickly, we have a question in the chat.
Yeah, what market research are you referring to related to not supporting a space of 700 to 1,000 seats? Sue, I don't know if you want to answer that now, or should we wait until the discussion part to get to that?
Yeah, I guess we could wait. I think Lila also has some of the previous market research that went a little deeper.
Okay, we'll come back to that when we get to the discussion section, but we'll start off with that question. Okay, so just sticking with the visual arts for now, some of this is a little bit of repeat in that obviously there'll be rentals for social functions, but also a real focus on having art space for artists when it comes to gallery and display and exhibition space. Will support instruction and the creation of 2D and 3D art, and of course having educational opportunities here. There's a lot of discussion about having maximum utility of space, but then allowing for specialized spaces as well. So that's leading us to believe that we need to have like a more general or open studio that would accommodate a variety of arts, including crafts, textiles, 2D, 3D art, printmaking. It could be painting. It could be all sorts of art, but having the necessary support spaces for that with storage and water and exhaust if necessary. But then also having a specific art studio that is there for kiln-based activities, so that could be used for ceramics or glass, etc. And we talked a lot about having a professional gallery with the necessary hanging displays, infrastructure, or flexible display pedestals and storage for them, having the right lighting. We understand that 3D art needs a place to be viewed in 3D, and not just be relegated to, you know, cabinets or wall space, but there's always the potential to have display and exhibit space in those circulation spaces as well. So loading for that, reception, kiln, storage, all of that is needed for visual arts. And of course, there's potential for scheduling workshops and tours and artist demonstrations in these spaces. And, you know, we may be able to accommodate having a larger or taller space for collaborative installations. That was discussed as a great opportunity to bring in multiple groups of people, or even partnering with different the schools and doing that. There was a request for individual artist studios, and looking at that, we're not sure that that can be equitably allotted or allocated as well. It could, if possible, if those spaces can be accommodated here, it might be that it's on a rotating basis. But again, that would be a function of management, and we just need to see if the space planning exercise could support that space there. But right now, of course, again, we're just talk about gallery a lot on here. And then some of this overlaps. There's a lot of potential for overlap. Some of it is very specific to either performing or visual, but then there's the spaces in between and the spaces that support those spaces, lobby, reception, administrative offices. Those offices could be for on-site staff and for visiting staff. Having that concession space, but then also having a small catering kitchen, and that small catering kitchen and concession space would allow the lobby or other event spaces or the gallery be, transition sort of like day to night to spaces that could be used for auctions or, rentable author speak or artist demonstrations and rentable space for other events. There was discussion also about drop off for cars, Vanpool buses, and needing that, looking at the site to make sure that it's friendly for all and not requiring people to walk from a different parking space all the way over. So making sure that we can accommodate, again, not just cars, but maybe there's a van pool or buses that can go from schools or from other group homes or neighborhoods to bring people to the facility. Also, in terms of talking again about public art or gathering or performance art, potentially if there's space on an upper level to accomplish it, that the site is very tight, so doing it down at grade may not be possible, but it's possible that that's something that could be accommodated in other parts of the new town center area, in one of the main gathering space malls or across the street where that green grass was shown there. And at the very beginning, we heard a little bit about having a demonstration culinary arts program, but in further discussions, there's so many restaurants planned for in this area that, potentially they could support that need on this facility, and that this facility working with a catering kitchen and concessions just for the uses in the facility probably would make more sense. Also, there is culinary arts program at nearby schools, so ideally we don't want to replicate programs that could potentially happen in spaces that are being surrounding. And then the digital media studio, this is something that is actually really exciting. It's a great opportunity to really embrace the idea that video is the future of communication. I know for a lot of younger people, it's the first place that they go when they need to look at something or learn about something. It's also a great way to strengthen partnership with local public schools and colleges, universities, and it can really reduce that digital divide that exists, and it can provide equitable access to all arts for all ages. So having space inside the building, not just to broadcast or record or live stream activities and demonstrations and art that's happening in the facility, but also allowing space for people to come in and learn about editing digital media or creating video or creating gaming or art or graphics and animation and instruction. So we're looking at potentially having a classroom space that could have a projector and filming studio space, having a space that could accommodate computers, and then the necessary storage for production equipment and audio recording space. So this really could be a way to not just further extend the reach of the facility and the arts that are happening inside into the neighborhood or into the neighboring community in a digital way, sort of like we're doing tonight with this meeting, but also getting participation from underserved groups by having this be a way to integrate the arts into the community. I believe I've probably mentioned all of these points already with public art, but there was discussion last week in the meeting about equity and diversity and opportunity neighborhoods and FCPS, is that there's STEAM public art installations that are happening currently. Could that happen on this site or nearby on an adjacent plot of land? It's very possible. Again, the more rotating or temporary public art is, it just creates more need for managing that process of installing it and dismantling it and keeping it up. So there's just, it could be that this is more of a programming or process issue than a space issue, but we will absolutely include in the feasibility phase that the desire to accommodate public art and integrate it with the design and the facility of the facility. So there was a lot of talk. We're a little ahead of schedule. We have a lot of time. I went very fast. Some of this is review for a lot of the people that have been in these meetings. There may be some people that are just hearing all of this for the first time. So at this point, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen, because right now we'd love to just hear any questions you have, or if you have emphasis that you want to share, or priorities that you feel after hearing all of this, what you feel absolutely needs to really be taken into account. We'd love to hear it. And if we've missed something, we'd love to hear that as well. You're welcome to, again, use the chat, or you may use the button to raise your hand. It's under, again, reactions. You can sort of raise your hand, and we'll be scanning everything to see what we can answer. But Susan, you raised the question about the market research. Again, we're looking at on the fairfaxcounty.gov website. There's a link to a lot of the previous surveys and sort of market research that has been done, and in there that's where we've mostly seen some of the support for slightly smaller theaters than the 700 to 1,000 seats. But again, I don't know, Sue or Lila, if either of you guys have something specific at your fingertips.
It looks like there's a hand up in the community center conference room.
Okay, great.
I don't know if that's.
The Master Arts Plan Task Force undertook a market study and needs analysis. And so some of the conclusions about the optimum size of the house derives from those results. And a great deal of information derives from box office reports and participation reports from other theaters, from our own history here at RCC. So that's basically where that house size golden number got obtained.
And the house size also will drive the whole, cost of the facility. So it's also something to keep in mind for affordability and, operations. And there's only so much that can fit on this site. From our initial testing, the 500 seats really can't get any larger and still fit comfortably on the site. There's a couple hands up, Amy.
Okay, Claire, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited about this whole process and project. I have a long career in public art, and I'm wondering, for instance, just was at the Kennedy Center this weekend and saw a figure of John F. Kennedy in the garden, not the big one that's in the hall, and it was so clearly too small. And so I'm wondering, in terms of scale for the public art, we're thinking about integrating the architecture with the public art. So, and they're kind of segmented separately, and then you have a wonderful piece of art that just looks out of place. So just wondering what you're thinking in terms of the process for the public art.
Thanks.
I don't think we would, this study that we're doing currently wouldn't take the idea of public art any further. Whenever the design would start, ideally the design firm would embrace the public art early in schematic or design development and work with various artists. And usually we always strive to incorporate it with the architecture, but that doesn't always happen as smoothly as planned. But I don't think that's not going to happen at all in this phase. That would happen in a later phase.
Right. But I guess, just hearing again, sort of emphasis or support for public art that is like right sized for the facility, right. Or, and again, it depending on the media or the type of art, is it light or is it something solid, or all of that plays into it. So like Sue said, usually that gets further developed when the facility is actually in design and getting that RFP or solicitation process done early in that process, so that the artist can be integrated in, reviews can happen as the building is taking shape and the site is taking shape is critical. So thank you for commenting on that. Jan, would you like to go next?
Yes, just unmuted myself. There's a lot of talk about the size of capacity for seats for the audience, but I'm more concerned about the actual floor space for the rehearsals and being able to fit everybody from the Reston chorale, from the orchestra, and from all these encore chorales that get together, and we're talking about 200 people. There's no venue near us that can accommodate that many people, and rather than have 100 people allocated as a floor space, I would like to see closer to the 200 at least, so that everybody can perform. That's a problem we're having at RCC. Is the Reston chorale is growing out of it, and we really need some more space. The Reston encore chorale grew out of it. So I think that a focus on the floor space, the dimensions, how many performers can actually perform on the stage is kind of a priority for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan. We have the Reston community group that's there. You had your hand up, but then your hand's down. Did you want to unmute? Is there anything you wanted to respond to or ask?
Just to say that, the program potential has to be regarded for the greatest number of good use at high quality levels, and to get the most mileage out of the facility and the use of it. And it may not be possible to put 300 people on the stage simultaneously. And unfortunately, there are only a couple of venues that can accommodate that kind of event. But in terms of constructing a public facility, you can't construct a public facility for an occasional use. You have to try to construct a public facility for the best possible spectrum of uses at the highest level of quality.
I meant 200, definitely not 300.
Yes, I heard you, and even 200 people is not something that I can imagine occurring on a monthly or weekly basis, and building an entire venue around a use that may occur twice or 3 times a year is not probably a feasibility given the requirement for public funding.
Okay, we'll still make note of it and keep it in our records as well. Susan, I know your hand's still up, but I just want to go to Para 1. I'm not sure who that is, but I see we haven't heard from that person yet. So whoever.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. This is Tammy Petrine, and this is a perfect segue into the funding issue. I am confused about, and I want to know exactly what the process is for this. In your slides, you are referring continuously to county and RCC, and you're saying that the funding for the capital, you will be seeking partners. I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, capital means the construction of the building. The land is in the proffer. The building is not, as I understand it. Is capital funding for the building only? And then I have a follow-on.
Yes.
Okay, so how does RCC then dovetail into this when it's county and RCC? Is small tax district number 5 that pays 4.7 cents now, and you're pledging, and this is what makes me concerned, that our tax rate of 4.7 won't go up. Number one, how is that guaranteed? But it assumes by inference that RCC is going to be managing this in perpetuity. Is that what I'm getting? Is that correct? Because that has not been clear.
No, the manager had, the people who are going to operate it have not been decided. Maybe Lila wants to jump in and clarify, but that has not been decided.
Yeah, that's my concern, because what does this have to do with our tax rate if RCC isn't involved in managing? I think this study is fabulous. I think looking into the need is fabulous. In talking with the Reston comprehensive plan folks on the task force and staff, we've been talking about the Performing Arts Center, and I have heard great support for it as a county, not just small tax district number 5, assuming the responsibility for this, but the entire county. We talk about county equity and one Fairfax. Perfect. That alludes to a county facility. And I am concerned about small tax district number 5 having a burden for running this place in perpetuity. Thank you so much for the clarification forthcoming, I hope.
The short answer, Tammy, is the answer that Sue gave. We're not at the point of discussing management or operations as yet. You are quite familiar with our strategic plan, so you know that for the last 15 years, realizing this kind of venue for Reston has been a priority of RCC boards of governors. We have not made any secret about that, and we are continuing to explore every possible avenue to help this come about for this community. What remains to be seen and won't be known until after we understand the rough order of magnitude of cost and other issues related to the feasibility of doing this project with this proffer, we won't be able to get to the point of determining how the capital project funding will be obtained or how the facility will be operated.
Okay, so given that, I'm aware that this proffer has a drop dead date of July. And I'm wondering, and then also if RCC is borrowing any money to do this, it requires a referendum. And I just can't see that happening by that drop dead date. And that's what I was confused about. So, you know, so you're just saying we don't know what we're doing yet, and therefore we're not going to discuss that tonight, or do you have an idea or what?
Yeah, we're not going to discuss that tonight. We don't have any idea of how this is going to proceed until we know what the cost order of magnitude is, and we know what's feasible to accomplish with the proffer.
Okay, but if RCC borrows money, there will be a referendum, correct?
If RCC wants to undertake a major capital project with requiring resources more than it has at its hands currently, it will undertake that project with the involvement of the community, and that can be done in any number of variety of ways.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. So yeah, sorry we don't have more information. It's just not part of the scope for this portion. There have been a couple questions also in the chat. I answered one of them. Shu Chen with the Jin Dance Company mentioned or reminded us about the full cyc and projection on the stage. We do have a full cyc or cyclorama in our list of infrastructure systems, pieces of equipment that gets included with the stage that obviously has a cost component. So we do already have that in there for a projection. So thank you for reminding us about that. Terry asked the question of how large is Block J. I keep getting kicked out of my thing to check the program. I didn't want to say it erroneously. Sue, I
Block
believe.
J is approximately, if you go to the buildable edges, it's about 27,000 square feet.
Thanks.
And our program's, somewhere less than 60. So it's, it's at least
Thank you.
2 to 3 stories. Okay.
Susan, you have your hand raised. Would you like to unmute?
Thank you. I just want to follow on Jan Bradshaw's concern about the stage capacity. When I saw that the proposed capacity would be 80 to 100, that is concerning. The Reston Corral typically has 80 people when we perform by ourselves. Add in an orchestra, you're adding another 35, 45 people. Collaborate with an orchestra and another chorus, as we have done, you're adding in another 50 people. So, I think that when we're putting this together, we need to think in terms of giving performing arts ensembles in Fairfax County and surrounding areas the opportunity to collaborate and to reach wider audiences. Again, I bring up the Schlesinger Hall as an example and a model that we should consider. Their stage capacity is 174, but it's designed in a way that it has a movable back wall that you can bring down that stage capacity to just 34. So if you've got a small chamber group, they're not being swallowed up. The same thing for their audience capacity. Their audience capacity is 981, but it's designed in a way that the orchestra seating is 500 and some, but then they have boxes, they have balconies, they have a back terrace. So an ensemble could just concentrate their audience in that orchestra level. And again, it would not feel like they've been swallowed up, but they have the capacity when they're collaborating with, and 1 or 2 other ensembles to bring in and fill the entire hall. And that's something that we should look at. When you have to do multiple performances, you also have to pay for additional time in that hall. So the fee goes up for these organizations that are participating in them. So, there are other things that we need to be looking at here, I think. And by the way, I'd point out that, I've attended every one of these sessions, and we're not the only organization that's asking for a performing arts hall that seats at least 700. I've heard that from others as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. We'll see what we can fit on the site and see what we can get out of the cost estimate for this. Any other, I'm looking through the participants. I don't see anybody else with a hand raised. There's a comment in the chat. Says all of this sounds great. However, I would like to see a full breakdown of projected cost to build and furnish the facility along with yearly costs. Also, where the funding will come from. And it's again,
That's a work in progress.
Yep. I think it's eventually those will all come to pass. I think currently we don't have that information yet. We're just trying to see if we can get a facility and cost estimate that could work for this proffer. Folian Schmidt, your hand is raised. Would you like to unmute?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, it's
Hi.
I'm Fallon Schmidt.
Fallon, sorry.
No
Sorry about
worries,
that.
happens all the time. I was wondering what the next steps are from your end or from the organization's end of like, will it be a public RFP? What's the timeline for that? I'm specifically interested in the architectural services and I'm also wondering, will Grimm and Parker be carried forward or are they precluded? Are any of those decisions made yet? Obviously, I work for an architecture firm, OTJ Architects, and we design performing arts centers. So very interested.
You want me to answer that, Amy, or you want to answer it?
You can go, Sue.
We are currently hired to only do this feasibility study portion, and depending on how this all gets concluded and the proffer, at this stage, the decision is to accept the proffer or not. And after that, the timeline for an RFP to come out from Fairfax County is probably on a pretty long path. Maybe Lila wants to, or Eileen want to chime in.
A long way from design, and that process will be governed by the Department of Public Works and their capital facilities design and building and construction branch. So it will follow the kinds of processes that are typical for Fairfax County, assuming that Fairfax County determines that it will be that the government will be the primary funder of the facility outcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fallon. I'm just looking at the chat. There is a comment also, just further explanation about the Schlesinger precedent. That's a 60,000 square foot approximately facility with art gallery, art display area, multiple classrooms and reception event areas. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely a similar comparable facility to what's being discussed here. Some pieces and parts of that may have greater precedence or prominence in the facility envelope than maybe this one, but it is something to keep in mind in the arts landscape for the greater DC area. Thank you, Susan, for putting that in. Any other questions or comments, or overall, has something been greatly missed from the discussions, or any other discussion about ways that we can really make sure that this is a equitable and just and accessible facility for the different neighborhoods and the greater Reston and Fairfax community? We're always looking for great tidbits there. Sometimes they can contribute to space discussions or have cost implications. So we always want to make sure that we get that. And we do appreciate those people. I mean, like Susan pointed out, coming to every meeting, even if it's not on the focus of what you may be representing, because we do love to get all those discussions in. But since we had a series of dedicated focus groups of performance, visual, and then sort of an equity discussion, this is again an opportunity to look at the building as a whole. So, Tamara, is that Tammy?
Yes.
You're para one. Sorry, would you like to unmute?
Yes, thank you. And I would like to add to your comments. Parking is huge. There has to be parking available. There is no parking at the Metro stop per se, nor would it be appropriate for theater goers or performer, audiences to park there. But having adjacent parking is necessary. I believe there are some office parking lots very close that exist now to the east, but that would have to be a study. Could they be accessed by the public? And would the owner of those garages assume the liability for a public access? So parking is huge. We have transit, of course, we need that, and people can walk and bike, but you're going to get people from all over the county coming here. So thank you.
Yes, thanks, Tammy. It's always good to put a little emphasis on the parking needs. And again, not just the buildings that exist to the east, but all the new buildings that are being proposed in this new town center. We're not involved with any of those, but it is something that can be brought up to the developer and the discussion of the proffer for having affordable, low cost, no cost parking is a great thing to add onto the discussions, especially for the use and function of the community and performance events here. So thank you. Any other comments or questions? And again, we had a slide at the beginning just about next steps. Again, it's the beginning, middle of June is when the proffer determination will occur, and that'll be as a result of the just right sizing the program, test fitting the site, getting the cost estimate to make sure that all can fit on there, and then there will be some type of community re-engagement that is yet to be determined during that time. And then again, the building design and construction of the actual facility would be July, right? July, not June, is the proffer determination, sorry. And then the building design and construction of the actual potential facility, if it does move forward, is again to be determined, and that'll be on its own schedule and track. And currently we're not associated with that. So just want to also point out for folks, again, there's the email, the RCC contact at fairfaxcounty.gov. If you feel like you think of something in the middle of the night and you're talking about this at your next fire pit or rehearsal or art event, and you get some ideas from people and you want to add it, feel free to email. I'm trying to talk and type at the same time. Feel free to email this email and share your information. There's a question about, will those who participated in the focus groups be notified of future public hearings with the county? The future public engagement will all be posted on the website, which I will share my screen to show the link. It's fairfaxcounty.gov/publicworks/capital projects/Reston Art Center. And the recording from tonight, this presentation will be there, along with any and all updates from Fairfax County about future meetings. But as they've been doing for this, they've been, I believe, emailing out the attendees from previous meetings, in addition to anybody who just registers for these meetings. So I imagine that would also take place. So we hope to see you in future meetings. And we're just going to stop sharing. Any other questions or comments? I mean, we may be able to end early tonight. I don't know if anyone from Fairfax County or DPWES or RCC wanted to say anything else that hasn't already been said. Right, sorry, fairfaxcounty.gov.
Yeah, Amy, and folks, any future meetings that will take place that will deal specifically with this subject, we will email the email list that we have currently. If you're on this Zoom meeting, or if you've connected to us because somebody forwarded you the Zoom link, you do need to give us the desire to be put on this contact list so that we have your email address and can reach you directly. So we, of course, will continue to communicate and update the public as we are able to. And the public will be involved in this process as we go through.
Yes, thanks. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And I just wrote it into the chat. So email the RCC contact at fairfaxcounty.gov with your email address. Don't feel like you need to put it in this chat, but if you got forwarded this Zoom link for any other future meeting, whether or not it's Zoom or in person, if you're not on the list and you just sort of backed into this meeting, thanks for coming, but feel free to email them directly and you'll be on the list for future engagement. And then again, it'll be advertised publicly on the website and through brochures and flyers. So
I kind of missed your like public fairfaxcounty.gov/publicworks, and I lost it after that.
sorry, Jan. It's hopefully you can see the screen. fairfaxcounty.gov/publicworks/capital projects/Reston-Arts-Center. I found if I just like in Google or a browser, if I just type Fairfax County Reston Arts Center, I get to it. It comes up quick. It comes up as the first one.
Great.
So you can always do that, but it has a lot of great information on there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other hands or questions? Sorry, my cat stepped on my keyboard here. Can't see everything. All right, well, I guess we'll call it then. Thank you everybody for, again, giving all your hours, so many hours of coming in and meeting with us, for spending Valentine's Day with us, for coming in masks and now meeting us on Zoom. We really, really appreciate all your input. And we are very excited. I mean, it's potential to be a great facility. We know it's all about a battle of competing interests. And we really hope that we can come to a feasibility study that really tries to encapsulate what the needs are that have been identified to the best of everyone's ability. So thank you very much for participating in this. And we'll see you next time. We don't know exactly when, but in a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good information.
Thank you. And Julia, you're taking like a little copy paste of the text chat so we get that.
All done,
Great. Thank you, everyone.
of course.
I'm
Thank you.
gonna stop the recording and then we'll end the meeting.